Hello there. My name is Olatunji Shobodu, and this is Leadership in 30 Minutes. Leadership in 30 Minutes. And today we have, a special edition for you to enjoy. And we'll be focusing on the subject leaders as brands. Leaders as brands. And we have a special guest with us today. And I'd just like to bring him, on screen right away and then introduce him. We have with us today person of Mr. Demola Akimbola. Demola Akimbola is an experienced, resourceful, and versatile brand and reputation management consultant with 3 decades of professional engagements in the private and the public sectors in Nigeria, in the United Kingdom, in the Republic of Ireland, and also in the USA. Is the founder and CEO of Brand Stewards Limited, and also the publisher of the Podium International magazine. You must have been seeing, that all over. And I'll be posting a link, for you to participate or to, visit the website shortly. He's also the publisher of Ileoluji Times and the publisher of the Christian Herald. And he's an accomplished author as well. 5 books, behind his belt, as they say. And those books cover corporate communications, personal branding, and organizational restructuring. And those are very interesting areas. And so you can understand why, we're bringing Mr. Kimbola to the special edition of Leadership in 30 Minutes today. And we want to examine, as we've said, leaders as brands. So, Demola, you are welcome to this platform, actually, as our very first guest on the special editions of Leadership in 30 Minutes. You want to say something to our, viewers? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and the honor, as well as the privilege of featuring on your platform, your esteemed platform. To commend you for the good job you've been doing. I've stayed quite focused on the leadership development series, and I'm quite glad that it's gaining traction and it's going places. Well done.
Thank you very much, sir. So we are glad to have you, and we need to. I mean, we know what it is to have to take out of your time. You know how busy you are, moving all around. Consulting, advising. Adding value to people, to companies, and all of that. And we're hoping to be able to pick some very important value from you today.
Thank you.
So our subject is leaders as brands. Leaders as brands. This is squarely your area. Yes, maybe in my case, I talk about leadership, but I'm not a brand expert. Uh, so we'd like to pick your views. All right. So you want to perhaps just give us a bit more, background or some kind of opening statement on the subject as it also relates to
Mm.
your experience,
Okay.
and your insights in these areas of branding.
Okay. Thank you once more, Dr. Shobodo. First of all, let me give a brief overview of what branding is all about, and we'll bring it back home to leaders as brands. Brand and branding, they are two words that have been bandied around for a very long time. People do mix them up, people do use them interchangeably with packaging. But basically, branding is a continuous process of positively projecting the substance of your brand as an individual, as an organization, as a country. You want people to see what is good in what you are doing, what is unique, what is what differentiates you from others in the market. Branding also is the process whereby you create value and you had impact. I mean, that you had value and you create impact. Those two things are really very important in branding. Whatever you do in branding, the long and short of it is that you must be able to add value. If you are an individual, you're a personal brand. If you are running a business, you are running a business brand. If you are a country, you manage what we call a destination brand. At the end of it all, value creation is at the center of branding. Okay, value creation for your various stakeholders. You have to continuously exceed their expectations. You must create value for them. Also, you must also be able to make an impact. Any brand that doesn't make an impact is a very weak brand. In fact, sometimes we say you are not even a brand at all. So you must be able to create value. You must be able to make an impact, and you must be consistent in whatever you do. You must be consistent. Branding is about consistency. Okay. You can't be good yesterday and be average today. You've got to be good all through, because people out there, they are looking up to you, they are expecting so much from you. People have invested their time, their resources, everything into patronizing your brand. Okay. So you can't afford to let them down. So bringing it back home, leaders as brands, leaders, of course, must be people who are role models. For you to be a very strong brand as a leader, you must be a role model. You must have those attributes that will make people to look up to you, to look forward to you, to want to associate with you. And the first thing I talk about also is about being one, you have to be empathetic. A leader who wants to be a strong brand, you have to be empathetic. You've got to learn to put yourself in people's shoes. Okay, you are there to manage a team, not to brutalize them, not to impose your style on them, but to coordinate. You are just a coordinator, you are a team leader. Okay, so being a leader means you must be empathetic. Also, being a leader, a very good brand is you also must be knowledgeable. Okay, you must be knowledgeable for you to be taken seriously as a brand. If you're a leader, you must be not you must be on top of your game. Okay, so as a leader, also you must have very strong core values, distinguished, distinct, well laid out, well articulated values. Your value system defines your personality. Okay, so when you say you're a leader and you're a brand, you must have a value system that people can easily discern. Also, to talk about substance. Okay, nobody becomes a leader without having substance, unless in some cases, probably in the public sector where people are promoted beyond their competence. But I'm talking about an ideal situation where in the private sector you have been made a leader, or rather you are even the leader of your own business. There must be substance to whatever your brand that you are pushing out there. Okay, so that's why I say people often they use the word packaging for branding. They are two different things. Okay, packaging is just one of the elements of branding. Packaging is one of the essential steps you have to take, okay, in the process of branding. But packaging is not branding. It is a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. So let's stop confusing ourselves. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. People place so much emphasis on packaging, and packaging refers to the outward appearance of a brand. Okay, so as a leader, you're wearing very good suits, you're wearing very good ties, very expensive shirts, but you lack substance. You lack values, and you're not creating any impact. So your brand is going to fall flat. So it's good to package yourself, let people see your outward manifestation of your brand. But more importantly, is the inward manifestation of your brand. Okay. So branding must begin from inside, then it migrates to outside. For an organization to, it is not yet time to put big balls, to be on TV advertising, or to do all of that if you haven't put your house in order. Service delivery, processes, structure, everything must be in place, because those are the things you need to deliver value as a brand.
Okay,
It's not,
thank you.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So, sorry, I want to come to the person, um, uh, because leadership is more personal than organizational. Of course,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
organization has a critical role to play, but
Yes.
there's a deficit of credible leadership
Yeah.
today all across
Absolutely.
the world. Well, at least
Absolutely.
that's my view.
Yeah.
And how does, how could we leverage the concept of branding to address this deficit? I mean, in your view,
Yeah.
how do you see this deficit? What are we lacking? Um, how can we use the value of brands
Yeah.
and our knowledge of branding to
Mm.
bridge this deficit?
Okay, I will address that at two levels. First, at the level of the individual, and at the level of the organization or the country. At the level of the individual, each person must invest in his or her brand. That is personal branding.
Hmm.
Okay, you must invest in your brand. Okay, you must project the substance of your brand. You must have a very strong online identity. You must have a very strong online presence in this era of digitization, and you must be known for something as a personal brand. Okay, because that is the unique attribute that you are going to be projecting. So first of all, whether you are a career person, you are a professional, or you are even an entrepreneur, invest in your personal brand. Unless you become a strong personal brand, you cannot be a successful leader. Okay, so at the level of the individual, you have to invest in your brand. You have to acquire skills, acquire knowledge, acquire the experience that is required. Then two, you have to define the essence of your brand. What do you stand for? What do you want to be known for? Okay, I often say that everybody has been blessed with some measure of skills and talents and knowledge. Your responsibility is to identify your God-given talents and begin to work on them. Stay in your lane, run your own race, and begin to project what is unique about you. Okay, you can't be someone else. You can't. Someone else's success story is at best your own inspiration. So stop
Hmm.
doing copy and paste. What works for A may not work for you. Even the so-called identical twins, they still have areas where they are not identical. Okay, so invest in your personal brand. All right, build yourself up. This is a knowledge-driven economy. Build yourself up. When your name comes up in Google search, what do people see? Brand
Hmm.
association. What do people see? So you have to be conscious of all of that. Everything is online these days. So if I hear a name or I see a name, I want to do a Google search. And if all I see do not inspire me, that's going to affect my assessment of that brand, even without meeting the person. So people don't really need to meet you physically before they form impression, before they form the opinion of who you are. So that's why you have to be mindful of what is going out there online. Be mindful of where you are seen. Be mindful of what to say. Even across the various social media platforms, be seen as someone who is intelligent, who is reputable, who has integrity, and who is focused. You can't afford to be flippant. You can't afford to be lousy. You can't afford just to be anything. Some people, they are not even online. They are online, but they are not online. You check their Facebook profile or their LinkedIn profile, there's little or nothing about them. Do you know that not just recruiters, when people want to patronize your company, they do a Google search. They want to know more about you. So you have to work on your personal brand. At the level of organizations, companies must invest in training. Okay, the so-called life skills, the so-called soft skills that we often denigrate, that we often push aside, those are the skills that determine the power and the strength of a brand. The soft skills. So in an organization, there's so much emphasis on generic training, operations, marketing, but nobody's talking about life skills, emotional intelligence. Nobody is teaching people effective communication. Nobody is teaching people how to manage relationships, crisis management, conflict resolution. These are the things that constitute your brand. So when people abandon their personal brand and they work in a company where branding education is not taken seriously, you end up producing leaders that are deficient, leaders that do not have the core values that are required to succeed in leadership. You end up producing leaders that do not have integrity. They don't even know what integrity is all about. You end up producing leaders who do not even understand team collaboration. They do not know how to manage their team because they do not have the people skills, leadership skills that they need. So these things are interwoven. You cannot just wake up and say you are a leader. You have to go through a process. And that process, part of it, you have to be responsible for it. And I tell people these days there are so many free online courses that you can embark upon to develop your brand. So don't wait until you are sent on training by your organization. Your brand is your asset. It is your responsibility to develop it, to manage it, and to project it. Okay, nobody's going to do it for you. So
I
it's very important.
okay.
Yes, yeah,
You want to finish it?
yeah. So it's very important that we understand that look, leadership development, brand development, they operate side by side. They operate side by side. So as we are training people how to become effective leaders, we need to train them how to become strong brands that people will respect. Okay, there are some names that in this country, when you mention those names, you haven't met them, but the brand name will evoke some positive memories. Oh, this guy, oh, that guy. And there are some people you mention their names will draw a blank. And they may be MDs or CEOs of some organizations. They may be leaders.
All right. I'm interested in a number of things that you have said, and
Okay.
I'd like us to take these things, further.
Yeah.
You made an important statement. Maybe I'll start with that. And you said, people should not wait until the organization sends them on, um, you know,
Training.
on training.
Yeah.
However, uh, I once did a session, and I called it the leadership advantage. All right. And basically just to review the results of a survey, that was done on leadership. And that survey was showing that less than 5% of companies invest in leadership development
Yeah.
for their people. While on the other hand, more than 7 in 10 companies acknowledge that leadership is a problem for them.
Yeah. It is.
You understand?
Yeah.
So what that was saying is that companies are not committed to developing leadership capacity
Because
in
they
the,
don't know. And because they don't have people who
and
know.
yet and
Yeah.
yet they identify that they need leadership for
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah.
Now, what does that say to the individual in the company?
Hmm. Exactly.
So the point that you made, which
Yeah.
I'd like for you to speak to that point,
Yeah.
if
Sure. Sure.
that
This is it.
why is it what you're saying is that, look, each person should take his, or it's like working out your own salvation.
You have to do that.
you know
Absolutely. Let me tell you my
and
own
sorry,
story.
you may want to also
Yeah.
take it together with this point,
Yeah.
that because we're talking about personal brand,
Yeah.
how you can leverage it, why is it
Mhm.
important. I mean, you made a clear statement. If
Yeah.
you don't have a strong personal brand, you
Mm.
can't succeed as a leader.
No, you
That
cannot.
means you must develop your personal brand,
Yeah.
and then consciously leverage it
Hmm.
for leadership.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
how I mean, that's, and you are saying, look, you better take personal responsibility for that. I think that's something that a lot of people
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
hear, would like to hear.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so why is this so compelling, and how do you do it practically? How do you do it? Because
Yeah.
will a company help you to develop your personal brand? That's part
No.
of it. you are also
No,
talking about.
okay, good. Let me just start from the last point that you made. Um, do you know that one of the things that will qualify you to become a leader is when you are able to differentiate your brand? There are 10 or 15 of you who are senior managers and they need to appoint an AGM. You all finish from IFE or from Unilag, you have great results. You all are doing very well. Your cabal is okay. Okay, you are generating enough uh, risk assets and all of that. Your branch is doing well, but they cannot make out of AGM. So what they now begin to look for the qualitative essence of your brand. Each brand has two attributes: quantitative, which can be measured easily in terms of the profitability of your branch, for instance, the number of people that you'll be able to impact. Also, the qualitative aspect of your brand, and that's where branding comes in. How well are you able to manage crisis? How well are you communicating? How well are you a team player? How well are you empathetic in your dealings with customers and your colleagues in the office? How well are you projecting yourself? In how do you carry yourself? Where are you seen? When they do a Google search or they do an audit of your social media platforms, what do they find there? Are you representing the brand? Are you doing the right thing? So all of these things will come into judgment when they are going to choose a leader. That's why you have to invest in yourself. That's why you have to invest in your brand. And if I want to use my own experience, I find myself in a bank. And long before then, I realized I knew what I wanted to do. So I was in the bank. I was in corporate affairs. Then later I was redeployed into consumer banking. But I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for a very long time. So I started reading books. Twice I sponsored myself to the US to attend conferences organized by a company called Reagan Communications, on my own account because I needed knowledge. It wasn't even the so-called era of online training and all that. It was 2010 or thereabout. So I have continuously acquired knowledge. I have continuously acquired skills. I have continuously embarked on measures that have been aimed at strengthening my brand. Okay. Most organizations do not appreciate the need to train their employees on branding, reputation management, because those are the aims of affairs do not know. 80% of the time they do not know. And when they know, they give excuses that we don't have money. But like you said, if they realize in that they need that they have deficiency in this area, then lack of resources should not really be an excuse. It boils down to the fact that those who are leaders who take decisions in those organizations are they strong brands by themselves. Because if they appreciate what branding is all about, then there really won't be any problem. Training has to be a consistent thing. And let me tell you, when an organization fails to train its employees on branding, the employees would not add value. Companies don't fail. It is the people that manage those companies that fail. If you go to VI, you still see the head office of Oceanic Bank as it was then. You still see the head office of Intercontinental Bank. So there's a limit to which automation can do the job. You still need that human intervention. And when you don't train your staff very well, you don't build them as brands, you don't teach them the core values that they need to operate, all of those deficiencies will reflect in the way they manage the brand of the business. So I'm speaking to entrepreneurs who are building their businesses. Even if you have two employees, train them. You don't have to wait for a large corporate before you take training to, and training doesn't have to be expensive. There are some that you can do by yourself. That's why you, as a leader, you must be knowledgeable so that you can train your staff. And the ones that you know that you do not have the proficiency, you can always outsource. So it's something that we need to probably declare a state of emergency, the need for organizations to train their employees on soft skills. Emphasis has been on these hard skills. How do you market? How do you do this? But the soft skills are the skills that sustain an organization. When all else fails, it is your reputation that sustains you as an individual, as an organization. That's
Okay.
it.
The now the again, still talking about the role of, the staff, the employee taking personal responsibility, uh, vis-a-vis the call to corporates, companies to develop their people. You and I know that there is the corporate brand,
Mm.
there is, now we're talking about personal brands.
Personal brand, yeah.
Is it possible that companies may refrain from, developing their people and maybe the personal brand of their people, um, for fear that there could be a conflict between the personal brand and the corporate brand?
Not at all. I put it down to sheer ignorance. It's sheer ignorance. How do I'm trying to remember which analogy I can use. When you train your staff, when you invest in their personal brands, the benefit comes to you first as an organization. Because what it means that you are producing leaders that can take the organization to the next level. There's absolutely no conflict there. If you invest in their personal, when I was in the bank, Nicky Holder came around a couple of times to speak to us, branding and all of that. And that helped our knowledge of our roles in the organization. When your staff do not know the linkage between their personal brand and the corporate brand, then they begin to do things that hurt your brand because they don't know. The man at the gate should realize that he is a brand gatekeeper. He's not just there to open gates, he's the first, okay, first access point for any organization for those who want to visit now. When you don't train such a man on how to manage himself, you don't train him grooming. He doesn't know that he needs to use deodorant, all right, as issues as minute as how do you smell as a staff of an organization. Those are personal branding issues. How do you dress? All of those things rub off on the corporate brand ultimately because your employees will not be able to give what they don't have. So it goes beyond turning up in the office, doing this, doing that. They must learn how to manage the bigger picture. Where is this brand going to? And that's where companies must share their vision with their staff. A vision statement is not just something you frame and you hang at the reception. No, you have to train your employees. Every word of that vision statement, what does it mean? How does it relate to the job you do every day? Because if they don't know, they won't know how to help you to achieve your vision. All right. So there isn't any conflict. It's just pure ignorance that is making people to think that, oh, if we invest in them, then it's going to create a conflict. No. On the other hand, it's going to help your brand as an organization. When you invest in your people in terms of training them on generic issues, on branding issues, relationship management, do you know that a lot of employees do not have good relationship with their colleagues in the office? So if that friction is allowed to fester, how do you expect such a staff to be able to deliver service to the customer? When your staff are not working together, it will show in the way they treat the customer. It will show in the way they speak about the organization. When they go out and in their unguarded moments, they say things that hurt your brand. It takes $10 billion, for instance, to build a brand, but it takes one careless talk or one careless action by a staff to destroy everything that you have worked for. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I still want to explore the
Yeah,
potential conflict,
yeah.
and then looking at it from the point of view of responsibility, taking personal responsibility. Because now
Mm,
what you're saying is that yes, that is what the company should do, the
yeah,
employer should do, but
yeah.
it would seem to me that you're also suggesting that at the personal level, you should also not leave your future in the hands or your brands in the hands of the corporate. That's why you would say, look, you better make
Yeah.
sure that you train yourself. But
Yeah.
you know what you guys talk about, brand association. Okay,
Yeah.
so it seems to me that there's a way that you can look at yourself, um, your personal brand, as being
Mm.
associated with a corporate brand.
Yeah.
Can there be situations where the individual just feels that, as far as my personal brand goes, I'm in the wrong place,
Yeah.
relative to the brand of the company? And if
Yeah.
if, if that can happen, what do you do?
Yeah. Okay. So there have been instances where there is a misfit. That's why when we train, we tell HR managers, we tell recruiters, don't just look for academic qualifications and experience. There's something we call person specification. For each organization, you must have what we call our own kind of people. So this guy has a first class, he has the experience, but his value system does not align with that of our organization. So it's not a fit. We must get to that stage where we will refuse to recruit people because they do not fit in into the value system of the organization. The moment you overlook that, you bring in people who do not possess the values that you hold in high esteem in your organization, you have made the first mistake. So you have people in the system who are now beginning to manage conflict between their own personal values and the values of the organization. And such people, before you know it, they will have infected and polluted the entire organization. Okay, that's why we talk about attitude. Attitude is key. No matter how brilliant or excellent or high performing you are as a staff, if you don't have the right attitude, you should not be allowed to stay a day longer in an organization. Because without the right attitude, you are going to destroy the organization. So it's very important that whoever, if you find yourself in an organization where you increasingly begin to realize that your values do not align, you leave,
Mm.
because you are going to be hurting your own personal brand also. Your performance will drop, your concentration level will drop, and before you know it, you may even be sacked for non-performance. People will not know why. So if you believe that, look, this place, I walked out of a job and took a pay cut of about 1 million naira because the values of that organization was no longer aligning with my value. We were no longer speaking the same language. And I
Mm.
left. And people thought that I was crazy. Unless I went to somewhere else where our value systems met at some point. Okay, it is not always an easy decision to take. I must admit, it's not easy to leave. But hey, if you know who you are, if you believe in your personal brand, you will know that you excel or survive in any environment you find yourself. So you won't stay in an environment where you are beginning to have conflict in terms of values, where you are not even no longer appreciated for one reason or the other. Say that you've got to leave. You've got to leave. Yeah.
You talked about knowing who you are. If you don't know who you are,
Yeah.
um, let's explore that a bit.
Yeah.
I guess in the corporate setting,
Mhm.
in usual, professional leadership, personal development balance, they would refer to that as self-awareness.
Yeah.
Now, but that seems to be a major problem for
Hmm.
many people,
Yeah.
knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Um, how do people, how do you address that? Because
Okay.
you want to build a personal brand, and you just talked about the fact that um, you believe everyone has been given talent.
Yeah.
Okay, so but some people, it appears that majority of people, or quite a good number of people, don't even
Mm.
know what their
Yeah.
talent it is, let alone seek to take
Mhm.
advantage of it.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
want to speak more about
Yeah.
this? How do you, self awareness as a prerequisite for branding? How
Okay.
can people be helped to really discover, who this self is, so that they can make the most of it?
Okay. The first thing you got to do when you want to build your personal brand is what we call a personal brand audit. The way organizations do embark on audit There must be a brand audit for your personality. And how do you go about doing that? Probably you want to wake up in the middle of the night when everywhere is quiet and there are no distractions. You take a pen and paper and you ask yourself, what are the 5 things I can do effortlessly without struggling? That speaks to your strength.
Yeah.
The next one, what are the 5 things that I'm very poor at? That speaks to your weaknesses. The next thing is, what are the opportunities that surround me that I can leverage for me to succeed in life? That speaks to the opportunities. Then the last one, what are the habits and the tendencies that are hurting me and that will not allow me to fulfill purpose? Those are the threats. So we call it PBA, personal brand audit. So everybody must see that by the time you write those 20 things out, you will have a very good idea of who you are. Because the first column talks about what are the things I can do effortlessly. That if they wake me up at 2 a.m., I will do it without any preparation. Those are your strengths. Then what are your weaknesses? So at the end of the day, you want to use your strengths to overcome your weaknesses. And you want to leverage on opportunities that you have identified to minimize the threat to the success of your brand. Okay. So the moment you are able to do that, that is the first step towards discovering yourself. There must be self-discovery in this journey of personal branding. Nobody will do it for you. At best, I can only suggest, oh, it seems you are good in this area. It seems you are good. But you yourself know where you are very good at and what you are very good at. You know the things that come to you naturally. Okay. Now, I also know that there are some things that we need to know how to do in life that do not come to us naturally.
Mm,
That is where we talk about personal development
mm,
to acquire skills and close the skills gap. Where you find deficiencies, you acquire the knowledge, you acquire the skills. All right. And that helps you to reduce the gap. But you still have to play to your strengths. You still have to operate in that area of your brand where you are the strongest. Okay. So yes, self-discovery is very important. It's first thing we have to do if we want to build a personal brand. Otherwise you end up running someone else's race and you end up copying people. And um, when your brand is it's not original, because as a leader also authenticity is key. You must be authentic as a leader. You don't want people to start saying, "Oh, but Oga, we read that in one article last week, or someone said the same thing." You want to be authentic. You want to be seen to be a thought leader in your area of expertise. So, you must know yourself. You must know what you are configured and wired to do. You must know what hurts you. You must know what are those things that are pulling you back. We all know those things that we are doing that are not allowing us to maximize our productivity, unless we want to deceive ourselves. You do not need someone to tell you.
mm.
When you go to the clinic, you already know what is wrong with you. You have a fair idea. The doctor will just either validate or probably just discover new things. But essentially, you know what exactly is wrong with you. All right. And you know what you have done to get to where you are. Right.
Okay, it's interesting that you come to the issue of authenticity. I ran a series recently, over 9 days, addressing the issue of authenticity, becoming authentic. I called it, and for whoever is interested, you can check, my YouTube channel. It's a 9 day series, and I'm interested, therefore, in authenticity and the concept of authentic leadership. Now,
Yeah.
looking at it from the standpoint of the brand,
Brand. Yeah.
but I feel, and you are bringing in an interesting perspective here, um, in the sense that I feel that, by the way, that there is a difference between what we usually walking your talk. You know,
Mhm.
that's how a lot of people define authenticity. You want to walk your talk. And I said, well, that's great. But when it comes to leadership, you
Mm.
walk the talk,
So,
not
yeah.
your talk.
Hmm.
Because now we're looking at a specific context, and the
Yeah.
context is leadership.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't do it anyhow.
Mm.
There's a way to do it.
Mm.
And so you should do it as it should be done, not
Yeah.
as you want it to be done.
Yeah.
So, but what, so instead of, so I then say, okay, instead of walking your talk, which only looks at one dimension, that your people, the people you lead are looking at more than one dimension. What do I
Mm.
mean? The first dimension, interestingly, I think is where, you know, the point that you have made, which is your identity.
Yeah.
Right? Living true to who you are. Do they even know who you are?
Mm.
Let alone you live true to it. Because
Yeah.
once you project one thing and I see something else looking at you, there is
Mm.
already a mismatch.
Conflict. Yeah.
I can't return a verdict of authentic
Hmm.
once I
Hmm.
observe that.
Yeah.
It seems to me that that's one crucial area that your point addresses about
Mm.
the personal brand. But
Yeah.
I then say, okay, there are other dimensions,
Mm.
okay, that leadership requires. And I think some of them you have also spoken to them, and I identified six additional ones, which is that apart from just aligning your word to your action, which is what we always talk about when we talk
Mm.
about, authenticity or walking the talk, there
Yeah.
is your identity, there is your purpose, there
Mm.
is, so it's being authentic in your identity, being
Mm.
authentic in your purpose,
Yeah.
that purpose of leadership, being authentic in your talents,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
you said it now,
Yeah.
being authentic in your principles. You've also
Yeah.
talked about values, being
Values. Yeah.
authentic in your authority,
Mm.
because I discovered that, there is this idea right now, and it's so prevalent that leaders don't use their authority, they use influence and all of that.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, and I think that things are being turned on their head, that
Yeah.
nobody wants to follow a leader who does not command
Never
authority.
had at all. So,
So, and there is a place for authority. What you need
yeah, there's for
is
influence too.
how
Yeah.
to use it. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
Before you gain influence, because you won't gain influence if you start leading me today, sir.
Yeah.
You won't gain influence over me today
Yeah.
to earn it.
Takes the, exactly.
It takes time.
Yeah.
Now,
And influence derives from the proper use of authority.
correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the point is that how do you get me to do what you to cooperate with you, because you need to deliver
Yeah.
within the period. If you don't have authority, that means I can afford to disregard you, I can rebel, I
Mm.
can do other things. But when
Yeah.
you wield authority, you know who is calling the shots here.
Exactly.
you know. And then finally, I talked about being authentic in your results.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that,
Mm.
the point. I think
Yeah.
maybe you want to drill down there also, having
Okay.
an authentic brand.
Brand.
What does it mean to have an authentic brand? You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
and is it also possible? Because again, when we talk about authenticity,
Mm.
people who have weak brands and who are
Yeah.
generally weak, have weak personalities, one,
Mm.
and they know it, just as you are saying, but they want to project themselves as being strong.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there an authenticity risk there?
Mm.
And the fact
Okay.
that you may then return, people may then see you as being a hypocrite.
Yeah. Um, I will sum it up this way: be real and be true to yourself. I mean, that's the long and short of it. When you don't have an authentic brand, then your brand will suffer what we call fragmentation, because
Mm.
people now begin to see different components of the same brand, inconsistencies, non-alignment, and stuff like that. The first step towards being authentic is to know who you are. I mean, you can't run away from that. And project the true essence of your personality. Okay? There are three ways that companies build their reputation and their brand. One, through the things they say, their official corporate communication, through the things they do, customer service, and through the things people see or experience. So there must be alignment among the three components. If you say A and you are doing B, there will be brand fragmentation. If you say A and you say B, and as the stakeholder, I'm experiencing a different thing entirely, then you are not an authentic brand. The same goes for an individual.
Mm.
If you consistently project this line of thought about you, the day you have opportunity to speak, okay, for instance, if you package your CV or your resume or your profile, you have this, you have that, you have acquired this, and they invite you to come and deliver a talk, and you mess it up, you have exposed the lack of authenticity in your brand, which means all this while you have just been packaging, you have been building your brand on quicksand. Okay, so being authentic means be real, play to your natural ability and your strength. All right, being authentic means everything you say or do about your brand, let it be the real thing. You can't cook things up. Branding is not a game that you can play around for too long. Very soon, the chicken will come back home to roost, and your lack of authenticity, your lack of genuineness will show. It will show. Okay, so if you're a brand, you're a personal brand, you're a leader, and you've been promoted due to class action, for instance, you've been promoted beyond your competence, you've been promoted because you know someone who knows someone, and you're up there. The day you have the opportunity to expose your brand, people will see through that this is our authentic brand, right? It's so easy. And that's why I advise people to run away from packaging without substance. What packaging does is to build a nice curtain, lovely curtain that covers your brand, the rot in your brand. And the day someone opens the curtain for one reason or the other, the rot will be clearing. So be very authentic. In everything that you do, be real. What stands your brand apart is how authentic it is. Not the amount of copying that you do, not the amount of wannabe that you do, is the amount of the natural value that you are creating, the extent to which you go to be real in everything you do. So branding is not a game that you play to deceive people. No, it's not. But in this part of the world, people do packaging, they say they're doing branding. Okay, if for a corporate brand you have a bad or a defective product, but yet you are on TV, you have billboards, you're on social media, you are advertising, you are spending so much money, you don't have an authentic brand because your brand is not delivering value. Your product is defective, it's not meeting the needs of the people. That is
It,
what is that?
it begins
It's,
it,
it's
be- it begins with value.
yes, values. So it's for you to be authentic, you must push out the right values. You must have the right value system, and you must project them.
Okay, let me.
Right.
I mean, we're virtually coming to, to a close, but we mustn't because um, eh, 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 we also need to live true to our brand. At
Yeah,
MS Leadership Academy.
absolutely.
It comes to MS leadership, and at MS leadership, our
Yeah.
payoff is leadership nurtured by truth. Leadership
Mm,
nurtured by truth.
mm,
And
mm.
every time I insist that truth
Yeah,
is found in the
yeah,
word of God. So
yeah,
that's the perspective that we bring
yeah,
to the
yeah.
conduct of leadership, leading
Exactly.
by the truth.
Yeah,
And that's I mean, the Bible is proven truth over,
Yeah.
you know,
Every
forever, you know. Now,
ever and ever.
I want you to take a look at the person of Jesus
Yeah.
in the context of his leadership run.
Mm,
Because I always say that we miss in when we talk about him,
mm,
we don't recognize often the leadership component of his mission,
mm.
because there is a reason that the first thing he did was to put together 12 people,
Yeah.
and to do something to this gentleman.
Mm, mm.
Um, so talking about, and I mean, there is no greater leader as far as I'm concerned. There is no greater role model for
Yeah.
leadership as far as we are
Yeah.
concerned.
Yeah.
So let's bring down this brand, leaders as
Mm,
brands. So we
mm.
let's extray this leader
Yeah.
for us, the
Yeah.
personal brand of this leader. And maybe you want to
Abs-
talk about how he used that brand to
Yeah.
succeed in leadership. And
Exactly.
for success in leadership, I say
Mm,
my,
mm,
my submission is this, is that he developed 12 people who became
mm.
strong leaders, and you and I and everyone is still benefiting from the work of those 12 till
Yeah.
tomorrow. Till tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
please help
Mm.
us, help us to deal with, with.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. If you've read this book, Jesus CEO,
Yeah.
I'm sure I read the book.
Yeah.
It brings up some of the principles of leadership and management that Jesus Christ used to build success. Jesus Christ is the most authentic leadership brand that anybody can talk about.
Mm.
He had clarity of purpose. He knew why he came, even when Satan tempted him and attempted to derail him. Say, man shall not live by bread alone. He was
Yeah.
very clear about his purpose. Two, he had values. He was very convinced about those values. As a leader, those values, nobody could take him away. Empathy was one of those values.
Yes.
Even when one of his followers attempted to revenge, he said no. So empathy, that he fed people, he healed, he did so many things. That was empathy as a leader. So those are values that leaders must have. Also, he was very knowledgeable about his assignment on earth. He was very knowledgeable. He spoke mainly through proverbs,
Yeah.
very deep proverbs, which required a high level of insight and knowledge for you to decipher. So he was very knowledgeable. Leaders need to be knowledgeable. Jesus
So
Christ was,
the
yeah,
parables, the
yeah.
parables were part of his brand.
But part of the brand,
Was
exactly.
was
That's
a strong feature of his brand.
it was a unique communication style.
Wow.
And there was no ambiguity in all that Jesus Christ said. As a leader, you have to communicate without any ambiguity. Okay? People must not misconstrue. There was never a time that Jesus Christ was misunderstood in all of his teachings. It was not, he delivered his message simple, clear language. Okay? Jesus Christ walked his talk. Everything he said, he did.
Mm.
He was not hypocritical, he was not deceptive. Jesus Christ had very good team management skills. He was the youngest, but he led. He led people who are more knowledgeable, who are more experienced. And the Bible did not record any instance where there was discontent or where there was dissent or where there was rebellion until the issue of what's our friend's name?
Judas.
That's yes. So he was a good team player who was able to manage his team, to coordinate his team, and he did not detach himself from the source of his authority, which was God.
Mm.
At all times, he reminded us that I have been sent, and this is why I have been sent. And also, Jesus Christ was very sure of his destination as a leader. He knew at the end of the day that this will happen to him.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Jesus brand, that's a complete brand. that incorporated or that incorporate all the key essential principles a leader must have: clarity of purpose, empathy, good communication skill, um, team management. Okay, and he was always willing to help, always willing to help, and he lived a very simple life. Leaders who want to be very strong brands must be simple in their approach. Don't get entangled in sophistry. Don't get entangled in hyper sophistication. Keep it real, keep it simple. And Jesus' brand was a brand that added value to people's lives, and he made impact. So, if you want to know more about how to be a strong leader, I mean, how to be a strong brand leader, just study the life of Jesus Christ. Everything he did selflessly. There was never a record of anything that he did to please himself.
Mm.
Never. His first miracle at Cana of Galilee was not about himself, it was about the guests. When he fed people, it was not about himself, it was about people. So everything he did was about people. Empathy plus caring for people. He died long time ago. His impact, we are still enjoying the impact of his work. How many leaders will leave their positions today and their impact will still be remembered or be felt in 5 years' time? Not even thousands of years.
Well, that's because many leaders feel that the assessment of the evidence of success as a leader
Yeah,
is
yeah.
measured while they are still on the seat, forgetting
Yeah,
that
no, no, no,
the
no.
evidence of success, you see it after the leader has left. What
After you
happened
have left, and
after you
people
have
begin
left?
to compare, people
Yeah.
begin to compare you with your successor. And of course, Jesus Christ prepared his disciples, he taught them, okay, he empowered them, he gave them he delegated,
Yes.
and he did not micromanage them. Okay, he delegated, he didn't abscond. You can What leaders do these days, they delegate and they abscond. Delegation is not a substitute for you to abscond. Yeah, when you delegate, you still have to supervise.
They
There's
abscond.
not
They abscond with the authority that they refuse
with
to
the
delegate.
authority. Exactly.
So
But when
they delegate responsibility without authority.
Yes, and they are not willing to share any blame. Oh, it was Lagbaja that I have to do it. I asked this person to do it. That's like the crop of leaders that we're producing today. They love the authority. They do not love accountability. They do not want to be responsible for anything. They just want to bear that title of a leader. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Wow,
It doesn't work that way.
there's so much, for us to discuss. I
So much,
suspected,
so much.
so I'm going to crave your indulgence and say, okay, maybe we call this part one, and
Yeah,
we'll try and fix some other time at your convenience to explore
absolutely.
to explore these issues
So
further. There
much.
is so much that we
Yeah.
need to talk about, both from the perspective of the truth,
Yeah.
the real truth about how
Yeah.
to do leadership right, looking at, the brand. I
Yeah.
love the way you put it, the most authentic leadership
Yeah.
brand. I
Absolutely.
took note of
Yeah.
that. The most
Yeah.
authentic
Yeah.
leadership
It
brand.
is. It is. Faultless.
And I believe that we need also to carry this forward because there are two vitally important things that we're
Mm.
looking at: the concept of branding, especially personal branding, and
Yeah.
the concept of leadership, without which
Hmm.
nothing works. Without
Yeah.
leadership, nothing works.
Oh.
And without leaders focused on doing leadership as it should be done.
Mm.
I love the
Mm.
point that you made about Jesus was always about the people. It was
Yeah.
always about the people. I mean,
Yeah.
and in today's world, especially with all the migration to and dependence on artificial intelligence and what have you,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's bad enough that
Mm.
the state of leadership is
Mm.
is is dire. Uh,
Yeah.
you have to be concerned
Yeah.
about what happens
Absolutely.
next,
Yeah.
given where we
Yeah.
are going,
Yeah.
because
I was at a session sometimes, I think 2 weeks ago, and I said, look, we have to retrace ourselves. We have to go back. we have allowed technology to wipe away some key elements of the human service. Service comes out of people, not out of technology.
Yeah.
Service comes out of people. So service technology is an enabler. It can never replace the human aspect of organizational management. Leadership, are you going to ask AI to provide leadership? No.
Well, I, I'm not. I'm not sure if the technology people would agree with you.
Of course, they won't.
They are,
They always believe that everything is possible with technology.
but I think these are serious discussions to have, and
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
we really need to look at
Mm,
things. I
mm,
think we're suffering from the failure of leadership in very many
yeah.
respects.
Acute failure. Acute
Yeah,
failure.
and the greatest challenge is how do you redress it?
Yeah.
Um, and recently, which is probably where the challenge I will leave to everyone who is viewing and who may have listened to us,
Mm,
all through. And by the way, I've included in the chats links to Mr. Kimbola's various,
okay.
sites and publications. And if you want to reach him, also, I've shared his email. Please feel free to reach out to him. You already know what he can do for you. Um,
Yeah.
from the discussions that we have been having. So what I want to leave, I wrote something on in a LinkedIn post. I said, challenging people to be the leader that they want but have refused to become, because
Mm,
everybody is looking for some leader,
mm,
some true leader, some excellent leader to appear from somewhere.
yeah.
Yet, like you said, they are not
Mm,
investing in their
mm,
own personal leadership brand.
yeah.
All right. They are not, people are not investing in their own personal leadership brand.
At
I'm
all.
amazed when you are quick to say,
Mm,
everything rises and falls,
mm,
on leadership. The famous quote by John Maxwell.
yeah.
But okay, so if everything rises and falls on leadership,
Mm,
who's going to provide the leadership? Somebody else
leadership.
other than yourself. Why are you not working to be the one who will show
Yeah.
everybody else, how
Yeah.
to do leadership? Why are
Yeah.
we quick to, be clapping for somebody, to be saying this is the person who can do it,
Yeah.
and we are not looking at ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
candidates,
Mm-hmm.
and to start where we are
Yeah.
and start building ourselves up so that someday, sometime in the future, we will present ourselves as the kind of leader who
Yeah.
can do all those things that we're talking about. It seems to me another level or dimension of the hypocrisy that we
Yeah.
tend to be exposed to,
Mm,
wanting others to fill in gaps, and
yeah.
we take ourselves out of the equation. That's
Mm,
why I find that it's very easy for people to criticize. It's very cheap to
mm,
criticize.
mm,
You can criticize anybody, but you refuse
mm,
to
mm.
basically put yourself also out there,
Accept
so that
responsibility. Yeah.
you can feel how, where the shoe pinches. Those people you are
Yeah.
criticizing
Yeah.
feel, yes, I mean, they're not saying they are doing things
So
correctly. They're
easy.
not,
It's so easy.
yeah,
So easy
but
to
you
criticize.
don't even
So
know
easy.
what some people are facing. you know all you see is and on the side, I'm amazed. I mean, I think you and I have spoken about it. I'm amazed if we
Yeah.
look at where both of us come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
The yeah, I mean, a government that is barely 2 years.
Yeah.
It's I mean, barely 2 months, and
Yeah.
you know every
Yeah. So
step
it's
taken
patient
is
in Nigeria.
a wrong step.
It's wrong.
Everybody knows the right thing to do. uh, and finally, I thought to myself recently, I said, oh, so we want a change. We are clamoring
Yeah.
for a change.
Mm.
And now we have somebody who is trying to make a change, and we are trying to dictate what the person should do.
That is it.
We want to be the one to dictate to the person that this is
Yeah.
how you should do it.
You should do it. Yeah. We
I
we
don't,
are so that the man just woke up in his bedroom sat down and wrote out the list of ministers without consulting anybody. We
It's,
assume that the man does things without even asking. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work.
it's amazing. Maybe someday we will have a session
Yeah,
to discuss the personal brand of this leader, of this
of these leaders.
particular leader. Maybe that
Yeah,
will, no,
yeah,
I mean
yeah,
seriously, maybe that will
yeah,
help
sure,
more people to understand
sure.
and look beyond
Yeah,
some of the
yeah,
mundane issues.
absolutely.
Because I think there's a lot of education also,
Yes,
as
it is.
and the fact that you have a strong brand doesn't mean that the brand has no weaknesses.
Oh yes, of
Uh-huh.
course.
So,
Definitely,
we should.
definitely.
So,
Yeah,
we want to thank you very much
thank you so
for,
much.
an hour of very insightful and very exciting,
Thank you so much.
discussions. I believe that, everybody watching and those who will watch subsequently will
Yeah,
derive significant, knowledge and benefit from our discussions. I'm hoping that we can do this once more, or
definitely.
probably, a series of it.
Oh yeah,
Because
sure.
I
Why not?
think it's
Anytime,
very, very
anytime.
important that we
Yeah,
further explore
yeah,
these dimensions. So many things that we couldn't cover. But I
so
want to
many.
appreciate,
Thank you
you
so much.
for obliging us your presence, for sharing your knowledge, and experience with us.
Thank you.
And thanking you on behalf of Emed Leadership Academy and on behalf of, our listeners and subscribers,
So,
for coming to educate us, as it were. I'm sure
thank you
we're
so much.
better off, and
Yeah.
we wish you very well, in your endeavors,
Thank you.
and to say we'll be back, knocking at your
Definitely,
door for even more
definitely.
education.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
God
Have a
bless you.
wonderful
Thank
day
you.
and week, and God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Amen. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have it. We have had Mr. Demola Akimbola on with us at this first special edition of Leadership in 30 Minutes, where we brought in a guest and we have been focusing on leaders as brands. And I believe you've picked up, quite a number of insightful points there, and to do the needful. And please reach out to us. You have had it. Invest in building your personal brand. Invest in developing an authentic leadership brand. It holds great rewards that last well into the future. My name is Olatunji Shobodu. Again, and it's been Leadership in 30 Minutes, a special edition brought to you today. And we'll be doing that, quite regularly going forward. It's all about ensuring that you are empowered and equipped to do leadership right. Enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you. Bye bye.